We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do us well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and friends. Do not forget to ring the notification bell. If you want to support this independent national rebel outpost, college football, with a donation, help us keep the lights on and grow the channel, just hit that dollar sign where you make a comment and I'll get to your super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome everybody into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to become a legend with your comments and with your phone calls. Breaking news, very special college football Peek Around the Corner live show. Welcome in everybody. I'm glad you all could join us. The Cruz Cantwell bill, the details have emerged through an exclusive report by Yahoo Sports. Cruz Cantwell bill details. A bipartisanship bill has been struck between the Democratic senator of the state of Washington and the Republican senator Ted Cruz of Texas. A big old article. We're going to go through it together. I have read it a couple of times. Real quick here as I set up this live show. Again, a couple of thoughts. One is the student athletes are not required to become employees. The cap is a floating cap, and I don't know exactly what that means, other than it looks like this bill sets up the lawyers in the House case as basically the union bosses of the players. Because the salary cap, and this is the tricky part, can be negotiated. It can be adjusted, but through the negotiations to the House lawyers. That's what it sounds like. That part of it, I don't know if that is going to be good enough for the Big Ten and the SEC. However, a lot of this bill, it looks like Maria Cantwell did a lot of the compromising. A lot of this looks like the SCORE Act, to be honest with you. There is stuff in here that could have been the poison pill for the SEC, but they're not. Now, there's a few things like the optional pooling of media rights together. Conferences that make over $1 billion cannot pool their rights together. In other words, this bill says SEC and the Big Ten, you're not going to pool your media rights together. Again, I don't think that's a big deal because I don't think the SEC and the Big Ten are interested in doing that. So basically, this bill shuts down any idea of a Super League. Again, something that the Big Ten and the SEC would not have a problem with that part of the bill. It does have the option of other conferences pooling their rights together, but it would have to be over 75% of the FBS schools of the 138 that would pool their rights together. So if you're not taking the SEC and the Big Ten, you basically got to get everybody else on board, and I don't think the Big 12 and the ACC, I don't think that works for them, brother. So basically, to pool their media rights together, the Big 12, the ACC, and the G6 conferences would be negotiating with the SEC and the Big Ten. Again, I don't think that part of the bill is a poison pill to the SEC and the Big Ten. The eligibility rules, 5 years to play 5 years to play 5 years. Again, not a poison pill. The transfer rule part of this bill, I think the SEC and the Big Ten can live with that. Again, I'm just speculating here, ladies and gentlemen. I do not know. I have not seen any reports from the Big Ten and the SEC on their reaction to it. I actually think as this bill goes through Congress, I think it's going to be difficult to get the Democratic senators on board. To get 60 senators. I think, again, I could be wrong. Look, a lot of you I could flip on this. By the end of this live show, again, breaking news, the Cantwell Cruz bill details have emerged. And the more I read into it and the more you guys talk to me about it, I might change my opinion on it. But I think Cantwell did a lot more of the compromising than Cruz on this. Now, that doesn't mean that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be okay with every part of this. That floating cap situation, having to go back to Kessler, the lawyer, that might be the poison pill that shuts all this down. But I think the bill overall, it was a valiant attempt to thread the needle. And I think it got close, but ultimately, is Congress really going to pass this year? That's the question. It tried to tap dance on both sides. It tried to thread the needle. But in this political climate, heading towards the election, is this really going to pass? Because, ladies and gentlemen, the SEC and the Big Ten have made it known that time basically has already run out. If this would have been done 6 months ago and had a longer leadway to get it done, maybe possibly something could have been done. Ultimately, I do not think this is going to pass. But it is a bigger, better attempt than I thought was going to come out of this. I think it got close. The main part of this problem is this thing called the floating cap. We're going to talk about it all. I do want to give a roll call thanking everybody for joining us on this emergency live show. Skaven Yes is in the house. MBM is here. Charlie Atwood, the Grateful Trojan, the architect, Chef Maul, Rich Austin, Bob Swanger, Preston from Greensboro, North Carolina. Woody Portner is in the house. Thanks for coming on in. Jared Jones, the Grateful Trojan. Jose is in the house. Can't get any work done. Bruce Harris is here. Jay Chapman, my prof. Stephen McNeely is in the house. Rodney Richborg, Deadeye is here. Fong Wei Weirdman is here. The architect. I had to read it a couple times, real quick. Pooled if 75% agree. I mean, I don't know. I mean, what is 75%? That's a lot. I don't know if that might be dead in the water. Karan Chakar is in the house. Martiner Memes is here. Humble Bumble Duck, thanks for coming on in. Yogi Buck, is a bill close? The bill is going to be introduced next week. Is it close to being passed? No. It has to go through all these committees. People are going to take shots at it. There's going to be amendments. It's not close to being passed. Who else is here? Bill G, the incredible Bill G. Bob Swanger. Caleb Ramirez is here. Thanks for coming on in. Lee's in the house. It has next to zero chance of getting through both the House and the Senate. The Observer is in the house. Kenneth Maynard. Amazing Blue. Joshino is here. Tumasta, John Grove, The planes have their landing gear engaged. Case Struthers is in the house. All right, thank you all for coming on in. I appreciate it. Let's get right to it again. We'll have phone calls later on. If you give us a call, the floor is yours. Super chats. Thank you for the super chats. When they come on in, the floor is yours. You talk about anything. We talk. If you do a super chat, it does not have to fit the parameters of the show that we are doing today. Primarily, this live show is about the breaking news. We said we would come on the moment this broke, and it broke this morning, May 27th. Yahoo Sports, Ross Dellinger, key senators strike bipartisanship deal on sweeping college sports reform with transfer, eligibility, and cap enforcement. The two U.S. senators have struck a deal in a landmark bipartisan legislation to regulate college athletics. Next comes a month-long process of gaining enough support for passage in a divided U.S. Congress at a divisive time in America. Senator Maria Cantwell, Washington Democrat, Ted Cruz, Texas Republican, reached an agreement on Wednesday, today, after more than 2 months of intense negotiations, adopting a comprehensive bill that would grant the NCAA its long-sought antitrust exemption related to athlete transfers, eligibility, and compensation cap. The bill is named Protect College Sports Act. It precludes the creation of a so-called Super League, creates an agent registry limiting fees to 5%, permits the pooling of media rights, and barred coaches from leaving their team before the season ends. The bipartisanship bill is designed to save the part of college sports that fans actually care about. Cantwell describes the bill as delivering historic protections for athletes and creating a national standard of name, image, and likeness compensation by preempting state law. So this is going to cut through the state laws out there that are making it impossible to govern. The bill is intended to curtail the industry's spending arms race to protect the future of Olympic and women's sports, also provide athletes with guaranteed medical care and scholarships. All right, so let's get to the bill. Let's get to what it actually is in the bill. Enables administrators to enforce policies related to movement by permitting only one transfer before a player must miss a season of eligibility. A second or more transfers are permitted under certain conditions, such as head coach leaving or the elimination of an athlete's sport. You get one transfer before you have to sit out a season. The second transfer, you have to sit out a season, unless there's some other situations like a head coach leaving the team. Establishes a 5-year eligibility length of college athletes and prohibits professional athletes, even those having competed internationally, from participating in college sports if they've earned compensation in pro careers beyond prize money. That's a big, big, big deal, right? Codifies portions of the NCAA's House settlement by granting legal protection to the NCAA and College Sports Commission to enforce strict standards in prohibiting third-party NIL deals. So it codifies portion of the House settlement, which the SCORE Act was trying to do. It's going to give the College Sports Commission and the NCAA strict standards in prohibiting third-party NIL deals. Now, this is a big one. Remains mostly neutral on athlete employment, leaving open as a possibility for athletes to eventually be deemed employees or in collectively bargain. So it does not prohibit employment like the SCORE Act did. So this is a win for Maria Cantwell in this compromise in attempting to thread the needle. Now the cap, this gets a little bit confusing for me. Maybe not for you, but for me, this part of it is confusing. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. The policy of the cap is perhaps one of the more notable additions to the legislation. The NCAA settlement of 3 antitrust cases, commonly referred to the House, ushered in an athlete compensation directly from the schools to the athletes, but within a cap system similar to the NFL salary cap. Next year, each school has a $21.3 million to spend on all of its athletes. But many programs, in order to achieve an advantage in a competitive recruiting environment, have redirected corporate sponsor cash to the roster disguised as third-party NIL compensation that does not account against the cap. So given the above cap spending, football rosters have ballooned to more over than 30 million, men's basketball more than 15 million, especially within the richest leagues, the Big Ten and the SEC. This piece of legislation stands to grant the College Sports Commission, the CSC, the new enforcement entity created by the Power Leagues to prevent phony third-party payments, a path to enforce the cap policies without the threat of legal challenges, a significant move and one that could, if the cap isn't increased, result in a decrease in player compensation rates. So again, it's going to give the CSC the power to enforce these phony NIL deals. And a lot of them, I should not say a lot of them, but the bigger ones are definitely phony, without question. So it gives the CSC the ability to enforce the rules without threat of legal entanglement. However, if this all passed without the increase of the cap, then you're going to see players making less money than before. However, and this is the confusing part, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, Cantwell says the language in the bill allows the conferences to increase the cap, which she describes as a key thing. The cap can float. The cap can float. In case the parties go back to the table to raise the cap, there's dialogue about this. We want athletes to know that there is a mechanism of getting a higher percentage of the revenue share. A higher cap, she believes, will prevent any decrease in athlete compensation. Now, okay, let's finish this paragraph here. I'm ensuring that athletes' rights with a private right of action for NIL compensation and revenue sharing. That doesn't exist right now, she said. And I do think the discussion about collective bargaining is over. No. Let me stop right there. Let me stop right there, ladies and gentlemen. Let me stop right there. Thank you for the $2 holler, Christopher Hooter. We got a first super chat. Thank you very much. The Lane Kiffin clause is in there. Laughing out loud, go Tigers. Yeah, we'll get to that part. Again, in the bill, coaches are not going to be able to get hired by another team before the end of the season is over. That is the Lane Kiffin clause. It already sounds unconstitutional. If it's a federal bill, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think the bill is more like the Hindenburg than Plains Landing. As a lawyer, the SCORE Act was not constitutional. Congress cannot take money from the SEC and the Big Ten to give it to other leagues via revenue sharing. Here's the thing about the floating cap. I think that might be the problem when it comes to the Big Ten and the SEC's perspective. this bill, there's a lot in it that the SEC and the Big Ten would probably go, yep, that works for us. But it sounds like if you want to increase the cap, there is going to have to be a total negotiation with Kessler. Okay? Which is fine, except for the fact that everybody's going to be part of that negotiation. The Big Ten, the SEC, the Big 12, the ACC. Remember that $21.5 million this year, the $20.5 million last year, that cap encapsulated the entire 68 teams' athletic departments and what they make. And the criteria was certain buckets, revenue streams. And you added all that up and they got to a $20.5 million last year, $21.5 million this year. So you're going to have to go back to Kessler and say, let's change the numbers, percentage, but you're still dealing with the 4 A4 conferences. And I'm not sure, good or bad, that the SEC is interested in such an arrangement. And I don't think the Big Ten is interested in the arrangement. That's the problem with this. I don't think they're looking at trying to adjust this thing just a little bit. Now, maybe they all can go, these conferences can go and negotiate with Kessler, and maybe the Big 12 and the ACC will not have any problems with the cap going way up and then having a high cap, much higher cap for football and basketball. You don't have to meet that cap. You just put it way up there. And now the NCAA has, the CSC has the authority. They have some antitrust protection. They have an exemption. But the floating cap thing, I don't know if the Big Ten and the SEC, I don't know if they're willing to bargain what they're trying to do within the conference now and have Kessler be the decider. You understand what I'm saying? I think the SEC and the Big Ten, good or bad, I think they want to decide what their numbers should be, what their cap is, and then have them enforce it. Because the SEC, again, the SEC's problem is they're saying that not all the numbers, not all the agreements, the NIL agreements are even being reported. It's a matter of trust, not even a matter of process anymore. This bill might generate a better process. It might give the powers to the CSC. It might give the power to NCAA. It might give the power to not be able to, the courts, you're not going to be able to put holes in this. But the problem is still the Big Ten and the SEC, and we'll just talk about the SEC for it. They don't feel that everyone's going to go by the rules still. Even if the rules have credibility in the courts, there still is no governance over the rules. I think that's the bigger issue here. It comes down to trust. Like, you can now make it so the NCAA is credible in the courts. That's what this bill would do if it passed. It would make the CSC credible in the courts, and that's what would happen if this bill would pass, in theory. But is anybody still going to follow the rules? I mean, is there going to be an enforcement of the rules? Let's say let's say the Big Ten and the SEC went along with this. And I am not advocating for the Big Ten and the SEC. We're just talking about what they're thinking, all right? What I believe they're thinking. Let's say let's say the Big Ten and the SEC today says, okay, we'll give this bill a chance, we'll support it, let's go. And let's say the bill miraculously passes. And the Big Ten and the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12 go to Kessler and say, yeah, this 21.5 million, it ain't working. Let's all agree that the cap on football, rev share, NIL, everything combined is $45 million. Okay? I'm just taking a number. $45 million. And the CSC can deny any NIL deal, the fake ones, the big ones. Okay, they got total power. The cap is $45 million. All right? That all sounds good. Raise the cap. Bad fake NIL deals are gone. NCAA has credibility in the courts. CSC has credibility in the courts. Happy days are here again. But there still is this problem where the SEC, according to them, they're not going to be able to trust that schools are not spending more than $45 million. That's the problem. They don't trust anybody. The Big Ten nobody trusts anybody. The Big 12 doesn't trust anybody. You can have a rule. You can have the enforcement arm all set up. You can have credibility in the courts. But does anybody trust that the NCAA, the CSC, is going to be able to crack down on teams that are circumventing the cap? Does anybody trust that they can do it? For 138 schools and all these other rules. Is the trust absolutely gone? And is the SEC and the Big Ten willing to be patient enough not to go in their silos, but to see this play out? Again, I would bet against this bill. I would bet against this bill from passing. But I would bet even if it passed, I don't think the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be that patient. The cap part, there is a lot in this bill, in my opinion, that the Big Ten and the SEC, as they read it, they say, that will work, that will work, that will work, that will work, that will work. But the cap, the floating cap, having to go back to Kessler, I think they would rather have a collective bargaining agreement within their own conference and to deal with this union or whatever represents labor, have a 4 or 5 year agreement with this union or representation of labor. And SEC is SEC football, SEC basketball, Big Ten football, Big Ten basketball. And then have the credibility in the courts because it's a conference only via the Ivy League ruling, via the Alston ruling. So while I think this is a great attempt, I think it's a pretty good attempt, I don't think it quite gets there, in my opinion. Let's get back to the article here. Thank you, Christopher Hooter, for your $2 holler. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Well, we'll get back to the article. Okay, thank you for that, Kayla Ramirez. We've got a Pete Thamel statement here, and I would agree. Pete Thamel, ESPN. Here's the bill. This was 11 minutes ago, which is a long way from ever becoming law. The step of the introduction is notable, and the industry clearly needs help. but the chances are still low something actually happens. And I'm just going to take a guess here. Pete Thamel probably has a pretty good idea what the SEC's reaction is to this bill, right? I think they got. I think it went their way on a lot of the items, but it still doesn't. It doesn't solve all the issues, and that's the problem. And I'm not saying going to your own conference silo is going to solve all your issues either. But I think there is a thirst to go in that direction. And that thirst is building. We've got another $5 holler from Christopher Hooter. Caller yesterday, if the P2 leave, that might unmonopolize the remaining NCAA, kill two birds with one stone. Very clever comment. A win all around. That was a great comment. Yeah, the NCAA might not be the market power anymore. Maybe they gain credibility in the courts. Whoever wants to stay in the NCAA. Maybe the NCAA, again, because student athletes will have be able to decide, right? Are they going to go in the NCAA system, or are they going to go in the Big Ten system, or the SEC system, or if the Big 12 breaks away, the Big 12 system, or the ACC system? None of them will have market power, including the schools that stay in the NCAA. Very clever comment. Great call. I can't remember who had that call. We have so many great callers here. Thank you, Christopher Hooter, for bringing that up once again. Thank you for your generosity, a $5 holler. Thank you for all your support. I appreciate it. Mr. Purple and Gold. Thank you, Christopher Hooter. Thank you very much. Let's get back to the article. Let's get back to the article. We got more to get to here. The bill announcement comes at a divisive time as the four power conferences hotly debate how to address athlete compensation issues while also growing more apart financially. And that's a big part of it. I'm not doing any of this advocating for whatever. I don't want a breakaway. I'm advocating for a non-breakaway, but knowing that it is probably going to happen. And again, the floating cap thing, if you're including all the conferences, at this point, especially heading into the future, I do not know how that works for the SEC, for their self-interest, the Big Ten and their self-interest. And there's probably schools in the Big 12 and the ACC are saying, this ain't going to work for us, brother, either. So, in fact, the bill's introduction arrives in the midst of the SEC's annual spring meetings near Destin, Florida, where university president and athletic directors, football, basketball coaches gather to discuss a breakaway model to self-govern, as well as a concept around collective bargaining and changes to the College Sports Commission itself, where more than $100 million of the NIL compensation goes unapproved, much of it from the SEC and the Big Ten. Woo! And I don't think any of that alleviates the issues of the SEC and the Big Ten in this bill. While the bill does not disturb the House settlement in any way, it sets clear rules and puts teeth in the place to enforce those rules, Cruz said. That includes keeping intact the College Sports Commission's athlete arbitration path that gives players the ability to arbitrate over rejected NIL deals. But the senators are clear on this concept. Third-party NIL compensation that the CSC deems as phony, not meeting a valid business purpose, can be rejected from the system. Again, I think that's a good part of it, right? Good part of the bill. I think many in the SEC and the Big 12 ACC and the Big Ten would agree to that. But again, I don't think anybody trusts that the schools are even reporting all of their deals to CSC. That is what that is what many in the SEC talked about yesterday. Super League and pooling rights. While most Division I conferences pledged their support for the Senate legislation last week, even before the bill was released, the SEC and the Big Ten officials withheld their position on the matter. Those within the league expressed caution about the language, specifically addressing the pooling of media rights and other concepts. For instance, the act prevents any league earning more than $1 billion in revenue from merging or consolidating with another conference. There are only 2 leagues that earn such revenue, the Big Ten and the SEC. The college sports behemoth who many believe are destined to eventually break away and create their own Super League. Okay, I don't really think that the Big Ten and the SEC, in my opinion, and everything that I've heard, all the chatter, I don't think there has been any true, meaningful discussions on any type of consolidating, merging those 2 conferences. I know there's been a lot of talk with Super League. I get it. But I have never been here and saying, I have not heard any, I don't think the Big Ten is interested. And I don't think the Southeastern Conference is interested. Now, maybe someday down the line, for whatever reason, the top half of the Big Ten, top half of the SEC says, okay, we're going to do our own thing, whatever. But the 2 conferences merging right now, I don't think that's even been part of any discussions. I don't see it happen. There is another concept targeting those 2 conferences. The bill offers leagues the ability, it's an option only, to pool their media rights contracts in an effort to generate more revenue at a financially stressed time. The pooling of rights, a divisive topic among SEC and Big Ten leaders who are against the proposal, is only voluntary, the 2 senators reaffirmed to Yahoo Sports. However, as the 2 biggest revenue generators, the SEC and the Big Ten would need to participate in the pooling of rights for projected media values to work, Cruz acknowledges. The other conferences must negotiate with the 2 conferences and strike an agreement that would be attracted to them to garner their inclusion. Okay, so let me finish this off. Obviously, we're trying to make sure that nobody runs away with the eyeballs or a certain amount of revenue and hijacks the rest of the system, leaving it shortchanged. A minimum of 75% of the 138 FBS schools must be reached to collectively pool rights. Okay. So, basically, you're going to need the SEC and the Big Ten in pooling their media rights. Becky Go Husky, super chat, $2 holler. Becky Go Husky, legendary PATC OG, does a great job at College Football Mafia. And again, I said it a few times, that last Friday night show with Becky Go Huskies, Wild Ute, Moen, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. I don't know how Becky Go Huskies, I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she was calming down Wild Ute. She was letting Wild Ute vent, and she was calming him down. Great job by Becky Go Huskies. No Super Leagues and return to regionality is new. The no Super League is like, basically they're saying that the Big Ten and the SEC can't merge. Okay. the return to regionality is more in this bill is more of a concept, more of a what's the word I'm using for? I don't know what I don't know what like a vision, like a concept, but it's not really. The bill doesn't really force anybody back into the regions. It's more of a plea, if anything. So, but anything. Thank you for the $2 holler, Becky. Go Husky. Thank you very much. Let's go back. Let's go back to. The pooling of meteorites, the negotiations would have to go to the Big Ten and the SEC. So the other conference would have to negotiate. Now, again, I don't think this thing is going to pass. I think it was a pretty good attempt. I don't think we're going to get there for reasons I've already stated. But, I mean, there could be, in theory, there could be some negotiations. For example, the Big 12. Could they negotiate with the Big 10? Could both parties be helped out if the Big 12 had some of their third-tier content, not with ESPN Plus, which they get a flat fee, basically enough money to pay for their production? That is why the Big 12 is behind the ACC in conference payouts. The Tier 1 money is bigger with the Big 12, but the ACC network produces much more money for the ACC schools than the Big 12's ESPN Plus. The Big 12 has been looking for a conference network, but none of the major media partners are interested in that. One of the big reasons is there's not enough big markets. Big 12 needs a better blend, and I think Brett Yormark is going to be working on that in the near future, the next 5 years, if he's given the opportunity. But if the Big 12, in theory, under this bill, could be pooling the meteorites of their third-tier content, and maybe, just maybe, under this bill that the Big Ten could open up their Big Ten network to the Big 12. And the Big Ten network would take a cut of the money, and the Big 12 might make a little bit more money off their end and more exposure, whatever. I mean, I'm just saying a wild theory about the Big Ten network possibly being able to be used for the Big 12 or for the MAC or for Conference USA or for the something to that. But again, I don't think any of this is going to happen. We got another super chat. I appreciate it. We'll get to the last of the bill here. $10 holla. Kenneth Maynard. Most of the Big Ten and the SEC are public institutions and are accountable to the taxpayers with political oversight, not the conferences. If the bill passes, they must comply legally, whether they like it or not. I just don't think it's going to pass without their support. I think they got too much political power. So I think they're going to need the Big Ten and SEC support. Again, I don't think this is going to get there for reasons that I have stated. I think it's too late. I think the floating cap thing doesn't work, and I don't think there's enough trust anywhere. And some of the concepts, the vision of this bill kind of runs counter to the vision and the concepts of the Big Ten and the SEC. But that's just my opinion. My first blush at this. Just my opinion. All right. Let's see if there's anything else here in this bill. Here is what Becky Go Husky was talking about. Cantwell is encouraging the conference to return to more regional competition, even believing that the league should reverse their conference makeups that create mega leagues that span coast to coast and cost schools an additional $3 million annually in travel expenses. Again, this doesn't help get the bill passed. She shouldn't even be saying this. This is an additional $3 million annual in travel expenses, yes. But how much more money in revenue for a UCLA, for example, for Washington and Oregon now, but especially in the future? You can't tell Florida State not to try to jump to a different national conference. You can't prohibit Miami. You can't. This is not, again, I mean, for example, the Big Ten, because this really doesn't have to do with the one region SEC. This basically has to do more with the Big 12 and the ACC with SMU, Stanford, and California. But this is really looking at the Big Ten. I mean, if the Big Ten expands even more, and I think they will, I don't think there's anything that's going to stop it. Unless there is a huge economic, like we go into a big old recession, global war, global pandemic. I think the Big Ten, I know for sure 100% that it's in their plans to expand again because they think they're leaving money off the table for the self-interest of their schools that exist right now. They believe that expanding would help the schools that are in their conference right now, just like when they expanded with Oregon and Washington. That helped the current Big Ten schools. Just like when they expanded with UCLA, USC, that helped the current Big Ten schools. They believe there is another additions that they can do to create value for the entire conference. And I don't think, and in this next wave, there is a strong possibility that in the non-revenue sports, that the Big Ten is going to be able to create more regionality, right? If they add on a few more East Coast schools, Southeast, they can stick more with the Eastern schools, add another Western school, another couple Western schools. You're going to get more regionality within this larger conference. That is the Big Ten's vision. We'll see if it gets there within the next 4 or 5 years. The bill does not address or prohibit conference expansion in a limited manner, Cantwell said. So the spirit of the bill wants more regionality, but the construct of the bill doesn't do anything against it. Then it talks about the unlikely compromise between the senator of Washington, the senator of Texas. What's next? The Senate bill fate remains unclear. Now comes the hard part. It's got to go through a bunch of committees. It's got to, let's just stop right there. I actually think, and let me know if you think I got this wrong. Okay? Let me know if you think I got this wrong. But I actually think it's going to be difficult. Rock and Rant was in the house here. Rock and Rant. Somebody let me know if you think I'm wrong. I do not think this bill is going to get the 7, 8, 9, 10 because you might leak out some Republican senators. I don't think this is really attractive to the Democrats. I could be wrong. Let me know. Let me know. Rock and Rant, other people, let me know. I think the compromises went too much in Cruz's favor. But I'm not blaming Cruz, and I'm not blaming Cantwell. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just saying, the transfer part, the CSC, the employment not being a part of this. Like, they don't have to be employers. I don't know. I think I can see certain committees, Democrats. I think Cantwell is going to have a battle ahead to get 60 senators than Ted Cruz. But again, ultimately, even if I'm completely wrong on what I just said, and I very well could be wrong, I think we've run out of time. And I think the real issue is the SEC is starting to fall in love, and they might be completely wrong here. They may end up doing all the wrong things. But I think the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten is starting to be enamored, starting to fall in love with the fact that they not only do not want to give up any of their sovereignty, but they want to gain more of their sovereignty. I think the breakaway, the threat has been real for quite a long time. As I said, in 2022, 2023, 2024, I've given examples on my X account. I had a big live show in January of 2024 where I said, this is not going to happen in 25, but in 26 and beyond, buckle up, brace for impact. The forces of economic consolidation is at hand more than ever, and there's going to be another wave of disruption, and I think this bill came too late. I think if this bill was introduced last year, early this year, it might have had a fighting chance. But the trust is absolutely gone. That is my take on it. I want to hear your take on it. Again, super chats will supersede the other comments. The phone calls, we're going to open up the lines right now in a phone call. We will, the floor is yours when you give us a call. But before that, I want to show you guys something here before we get to your phone calls and before we get back into this bill that we just talked about. CFB Plus. CFB Plus is in the house. Thank you for the artwork. Where you're going to use a little bit of it right now, CFB Plus. A lot of you have been doubting me. But this is truly the year of Greg the Gold. Let's go. Redemption Tour 2026. I'm already breaking down the tape. Thank you, CFB Plus. Let's go. Let's go. Winning percentage. I'm looking at 60% against the spread. Win. Let's go. All right, we just... Okay, we're just giving you a little bit of a tease. A little bit of a tease. Thank you, CFB Plus. I very much appreciate it. I'm already breaking down these games here. All right? Just to give you a little bit of an example. North Carolina State, Virginia. UNC. North Carolina, TCU. Clemson, LSU. 11.5 point spread. Louisville, Ole Miss, 6.5 point spread. You see, guys, games are lost, won or lost in the locker room. I'm already breaking this stuff down. You PATC Einsteins, you haven't even started yet. Look what I'm doing. Look what I'm doing. Baylor, Auburn, there's a lock. I'm not going to tell you which way, though. UCLA, California, another lock. I'm not going to tell you which way. Wisconsin and Notre Dame, I'm going to tell you which way right now. The Irish are going to bury the Badgers. The Irish is going to be 19.5 points. Are you kidding me? Notre Dame's going to be up by 28, middle of the third quarter. I'm not going to. Missouri, Kansas. Quite the change at the quarterback position. Austin Simmons and whatever Kansas is going to be throwing out there. My goodness. Oklahoma and Michigan. I think the Wolverines might get their revenge. I think so. Or maybe not. Ooh, can Iowa get the Cyhawk back? Ooh. And then the Buckeyes in Texas. The spread is 1.5. 1.5. Okay, so I'm just letting you know what we'll talk about it more. We're only in May. We're May 27th. But again, we've been doing the Spotlight series. We have broken down 36 teams already. We're going to do more here in the month of June. We're taking a little pause during the SEC meetings. We've been chopping it up. College football on the field. What is going to happen? And of course, we cover everything off the field. Michigan is going to roll Oklahoma. Ohio State's going to roll Texas. My goodness. Greg's winning percentage is going to be 60%. Mark it down. Rich Austin is an absolute genius. Paralysis by analysis. Greg the Cold, Grateful Trojan, is not a genius. UNC gets revenge on TCU. Give me Louisville plus the points. Yes, the T's. Bill G, boo. Boo. Boo, Bill G. Absolutely boo. Not good at all. Not good at all. Woo!
I got nightmares in my head, I fear that the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature. And
Elena, Ted, are those trees dead because of the cold? Elena, Ted. Elena, Ted, let me show you something, Elena, Ted. Let me show you something. Greg the Gold is rising from the ashes. It's been complete destruction over the last 4 years, but not in 2026. I am rising. I am an orb. I am a golden orb. Greg the Gold Orb, rising from the destruction. You see, there's a meaning in everything I do, Illini Ted. Everything that I do here at Peek Around the Corner. I give it a lot of thought. There's a lot of symbolism going on. I'm giving you guys a certain mist. I'm confusing you all. Yeah, this is Greg the Gold. Greg the Gold. All right. Greg the Phoenix. There it is. Grateful Trojan, back to being a genius. Dante's in Purgatory. All right. Let's open up the phone lines. Again, I'm going to keep an eye on any reports coming out of the Cantwell Cruise Bill. I want to thank you all for joining us early on this Wednesday, midweek. But again, we told you we were going to do a breaking news when this story broke. The Little General, I was just about to leave the house. I got some stuff I got to do. And bam, this news broke. I told the Little General I had to get in here. She gave us the okay, so we're doing this live show. I do appreciate you all joining us. let's go to your phone calls. I want to hear from you. What do you think about this bill? Did I get my analysis all wrong? Is it too early? 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. Let me know what you guys are thinking.
From
Rick.
Rick, thank you for calling. I do appreciate it, sir. The floor is yours.
Another day, another bill.
Yep, this is the big one. This is the last one. The last one,
yeah. Like the last one before it. By the same author.
The same author. Oh, Cantwell. Okay, yep.
What's the provision regarding collective bargaining?
It doesn't do anything with collective bargaining. It doesn't stop it. It doesn't help it.
It doesn't address it.
It doesn't address it, except for if you want to consider the floating cap, and it says basically you have to go to Kessler, the lawyer on the House case, if you want to readjust the cap.
Not the cap.
The rev share cap.
Yeah, I'm not talking the cap.
Got
it. She mentioned collective bargaining.
She did, but it didn't do anything with it though.
It kicked the can down the road.
Yes.
It's worthless.
Yes.
Thanks for taking the call.
You got it. I appreciate it. Okay. I wish Rick would have stayed on the line a little bit longer, because, hold on.
from
Christopher Hooter.
Christopher Hooter, can you just wait one moment, please?
I'm all yours. Take your time.
I appreciate it. Okay, hold on. Something's going on here. Let me There we go. Okay, now it worked. Okay. I do want to say I do not blame Cantwell and Cruz for not having anything about collective bargaining in this bill. I mean, that's not one of the priorities of this bill. The priority of this bill is to thread the needle to get it passed so it can at least do something about giving NCAA, the CSC authority, give it some protections, the antitrust exemption. It does a few other things. It gives more medical help to the student athletes. It does some stuff. But I don't, personally, I'm okay with that there's no collective bargaining in this bill, because if it did, it would not have passed from one side to the other. Now, and I'm also a believer. I was not, when I first advocated for a CBA, my very first show that I ever did on this program, I have learned quite a bit from my what I believe now differs a little bit from what I believed in August of 2022. I don't think to get to a collective bargaining agreement could possibly work nationally across all conferences. I mean, I think that there is no way that's going to work. So collective bargaining, in my belief, is only going to work from the conference level. I did not think of that. I did not believe that. Whatever in 2022, I definitely believe that now. So in a national bill, a federal bill, I think the best shot for collective bargaining between labor and what you want to call ownership, the conferences, schools, is most likely going to happen at a conference. Like it's basically its only shot. So I've got no problem that the collective bargaining part was not part of this bill. Christopher Hooter, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it, sir. The floor is yours. And again, thank you for your generosity as well.
Well, traveling today. Greetings from the Toronto airport.
Oh, Toronto.
Yeah, not that. Well, I guess I am far from you, but
no.
not
Well,
latitude,
you're actually south from me. I hope you know that.
Isn't that something?
Toronto
That's
is
amazing,
south
isn't it?
of Minnesota. Yeah.
Is it Windsor, Ontario that dips way down? I think parts of Ontario go way
dips
down,
down
like south of Detroit.
If you look at a flat map, it sort of hides it hides how north Minnesota is. If you look at a flat map, if you look at a globe, the next time you look at a globe, ladies and gentlemen, look at the beautiful state of Minnesota. Look at the top of Minnesota. Look at the latitude lines that go around. It goes around the North Pole, the next latitude line, the next latitude line, the next latitude. You see how a latitude line comes in, and I don't remember what number that is. It skims the top of Minnesota, but there's a lot of. It's like the United States on the globe is shaped like a little bit like a Christmas tree, and Minnesota is the top of the Christmas tree. The very top of Minnesota is a little. Not just a little bit, but quite a bit more north, closer to the North Pole than the tips of Maine and the tips of Washington State. Go take a look at it. So there is a bit of a Canada that dips down below the top state of Minnesota. Just put that out there. But thank you, Christopher Hooter. What is on your mind?
Well, since we're on geography, did that bridge open, the Ambassador Bridge? Didn't they build a new bridge there? And we're going to open it, we're not going to open it, and I'm talking about that little tip down there. I don't know. I know I'm off topic here.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay. Anyway, so the Senate bill. Okay,
I don't. As a Minnesota Golden Gopher fan, I try to stay away from bridges, and that's as far as that's as far as I will go with that. But go ahead, sir.
But I guess this is 2 states over, right? Wisconsin, Michigan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and that's a long way. Those are big states, right?
Yeah, those eastern states. I don't go there very much often either. So, yeah.
Okay, so I caught what I caught. So is this a filibuster-proof bipartisan bill, or is this,
no,
yay, we got a bipartisan bill, but 58 votes, and that's all we got?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely not filibuster. No, you got to get 60 senators. No,
so they do not have 60 senators.
I would guess not. I mean, maybe they do. I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked.
Well, I mean, if they did, that could probably be reconciled in the House.
Yes, it could.
They did.
Yep. Yes. I do not know how this gets Democratic Party support. I really don't, because it does not address the core issues that the Democrats would want in a bill like this. I think it's a great attempt by Cantwell to get a bill to thread the needle with Cruz. I think this is a pretty good attempt at it. I don't think, at this point, I don't think it's going to happen.
Is this a panic in reaction to Kirby Smart and Greg Sankey's comments yesterday?
No, they've been working on this for months. No, this
but they just announced it.
Yeah, but they've been the last few details. They've been negotiating. No, this has been a bill that's trying to help out. I mean, look, Ted Cruz, he represents a lot of the SEC, Texas and Texas A&M. He's heard the complaints. They've called him. He's been a part of it. The rising costs, the no ability for the NCAA and the CSC to rein in these fake NIL deals. So no, Ted Cruz and Maria Cantwell had been working on this bill because there is a lot of panic everywhere out there, to be honest with you. But this has been going on for months. This attempt has been going on for months.
Texas is a big state. He's got Texas Tech, he's got SMU, he's got Baylor, he's got TCU, he's got a lot of people chirping at him, right?
Sure, he does.
Not just the Longhorns and the Aggies, right? So, wow. Okay, well, so I landed and I saw your show and I go, oh my God, I got to find a spot. Anyway, I'll leave you be. I'm listening to what I can and I appreciate your efforts.
You got it. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much.
All right, buddy. Talk to you. Yes, see you. Bye.
Kenneth Maynard, Big Ten needs to be humbled. Pride becomes before the fall. A's on the kid. We'll get to it in a second here.
From
Evil Badger.
Evil Badger, can you hold on for a moment, please?
Yes.
I do appreciate it, sir. We got A's on the kid. Rock, Chalk, Jayhawk, Greg. It's a bipartisan bill. Both sides will have to compromise. Neither side can get everything they want. Absolutely true. And I think there is bipartisanship in there. No question about it. And I've said I think it's a really good attempt. I really do. I just think it doesn't... it's not going to stop the actions of the SEC and the Big Ten right now. I don't see it. I don't see it stopping it for reasons that I've gone through. But a good attempt, bipartisan markup, no question about it. Thank you, Azon, the kid. Appreciate you being here. Ryan Willie, the floor is yours.
How is it great and cold today?
Did you hear my comment about Notre Dame burying the Badgers?
Yes.
Huh?
Oh, yes. Yes, I did.
Yes, yeah, and I'm going to be absolutely correct on that, my boy.
I guarantee that Notre Dame will not cover the 19.5-point spread.
It's already booked in the I Do Declare competition. Let's go Irish. Let's go Irish.
Let's go Bucky. On Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin. All right. We'll see what happens.
Okay. I'm going to talk about something I see on ESPN's Get Up this morning.
Oh, okay.
They showed some clips of the what was said by some of the coaches yesterday about the playoff system and all that. I believe it was Mike Elko of Texas A&M that said that he would want 40 to kind of save his job because he needs to make the playoffs. And I only want 32 because I don't like any buys. But if he had his choice, he would want 40. And then they were talking about the Big Ten and SEC going into their own silos, and Heather Dinich basically said that, well, right now the NCAA is kind of protecting all the conferences, and the Big Ten and SEC would basically have to deal with their own lawsuits if they went into their own silo and all that. So she didn't think it would happen anytime soon.
Yeah, because of the lawsuits. Yeah.
Because of the lawsuits.
That's Heather Dinich?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, Paul Feinbaum said, what about 40?
No, that was Mike Elko of Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah. He was just, okay, yep. All right.
So I was wondering what you thought about what Heather Dennett said about.
I think it's a great concern. I'm sure the Big Ten and the SEC legal counsels are talking to the presidents continually about this. I do find it interesting, though, that the Big Ten and the SEC seem to keep progressing on the breakaway talks within the conference. You got to know that they believe that the lawsuits would come, but then again, if their own lawyers are telling them that according to the Ivy League case and the Alston case, that the conferences would have more protection, not less, more protection if their conferences was making all the decisions.
Okay.
You know, but again, I say we are on uncharted waters. We really don't know what is, we don't know what is around the corner at college football's peak around the corner. We don't know if this would be a good move by the SEC and the Big Ten. But again, they're looking, I say this, and again, I'm not trying to defend any actions. I'm just saying, what are the options? Like, I keep asking that question. I ask it on this live show. I ask it in my episodes. I ask it on X. What are the options? I haven't received any. Like, nobody has an answer. The Cruz and Cantwell bill is a great attempt. I think this was a good, honest, earnest attempt. So kudos to that. But other than that, and people are shooting it down left and right. I mean, what are the options for the SEC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the ACC going forward if they don't go in their own conference? This has been ungovernable. What is going to make it governable? It's chaos. It's anarchy. So I do not blame the SEC. I do not blame people looking in the silo. And now it may be more dangerous to do that, but again, I don't blame them for looking into it. Go ahead, sir.
In my opinion, and I'll leave with this comment, that they better figure out something soon, or else college football will not be around much longer, and that will affect the NFL in the long run also.
Yeah.
I just don't think that this NIL rev share thing is sustainable the way it is going now, and it's going to ruin the sport.
Yeah.
And that's well, U.S. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it, buddy. Thank you, Eva Badger.
Right,
Ryan Willie, legendary PATC original. Steve and Vitt, Ohio Bobcat conferences are not infallible. I get the whole thing about tribalism and the rooting interest, but I think everyone running the show have lost perspective on what should matter the most. Steve and Vitt, absolutely, conferences are not infallible. Uncharted waters. Illini Ted, a thought process. Does this bill push for Sankey and Petita to work on a P2 breakaway so they don't fall under the NCAA, and whatever becomes of this bill, the SEC is already talking a solo one? I happen to believe Illini Ted, and I could end up being wrong. I don't think there is a P2 breakaway in store. There might be an SEC breakaway and a Big Ten breakaway, but a P2 breakaway, I think, endangers the breakaway because the courts could look at that as being too much of market power, too much dominance. I think if the SEC, I'm not a believer, and again, I could end up being completely wrong. I have never been a believer in Big Ten and SEC coordination on almost any level. I mean, they're working on a strategic scheduling deal, okay. That advisory group went up in smoke. I don't believe in these two conferences getting together and saying, we're breakaway together. First of all, I think that defeats the purpose of trying to protect themselves from antitrust violations. Second of all, I don't think these two conferences, I don't think they trust each other either. I mean, the Big Ten just stabbed the SEC in the back. That's the Southeastern Conference perspective. The SEC thought if they go to 8 to 9 conference games that we would have a 16-team playoff. Did not happen. The Big Ten doesn't trust the SEC. I do not believe in the P2 breakaway, them combining forces. I believe in the Big Ten breakaway. The SEC might break away. They run their own thing, and then maybe they get together on some stuff. That is my thought on it. That is my thought on your Illini Ted thought process. Phone lines are open, 763-260-1333. We got Jacoba Cat, $2 holla, $2 holla.
From
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, can you hold on for just one moment, please?
Sure.
I appreciate it, Jacoba Cat. Greg, so cold. Mammoths sleep inside dead mammoths. Thank you, Jacoba Cat. Thank you for the $2 holler. Again, another super chat that I do not quite understand what you're talking about, but that's okay because, as you can see, 2026 is the redemption tour. Greg the Gold is coming your way, Mr. Hawkeye. Coming your way. And you better be careful, Jacoba Cat. I'm looking at this Iowa State game. And we know what happened last year. And I still can't understand why the Iowa Hawkeyes have left themselves so wide open at the quarterback position. That quarterback position in Iowa City, there is a lot of issues there. Iowa State plus 12.5 going to Iowa City. I think I might like the Cyclones in that game, Jacoba Cat. Rock and Rant, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. The floor is completely yours.
I think I can explain Jacoba Cat's there. I think he's saying that you're so cold that the animal is supposed to be able to survive the cold the most has to climb inside the carcass of another animal.
Got it. Okay.
Kind of like Han Solo putting Luke Skywalker into the guts of that animal, and
I got it.
The Empire Strikes Back.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I ever saw that movie. But anyways, I appreciate it. Like, again, there's a lot of creative, intelligent super chats that unfortunately the host of this channel does not understand. So, anyways, Rock and Rant, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, look, this legislation that they put out, it's like both of them have parts that are great, but the parts that they have that are poison pills terrible almost makes it look like it's all performative, because there's literally no way that they can't have known some of those aspects right ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And for those who are saying, well, it's bipartisan, so therefore they can get the Senate votes and it won't go there, both houses of Congress recently have shown an amazing ability for their leaders on either side of the aisle to not be able to count the votes before they do legislation, which is why you've had bills pulled from the floor that they thought they had the votes to do it, even if they knew it wouldn't get through the other house, like the whole thing with the score rack, right? They told us 7 times it was going to go to the floor. They told us for a week ago it was going to, and they pulled it, and now we know it's dead because it could never get the votes. So, this one in particular, I just can't. There are parts of it that I think are great. There are parts of it that I think are great, but I think have no chance in God's green earth, even of doing it. And other stuff just doesn't make sense at all. Like the idea that they would limit the Big Ten and the SEC, who have market power but don't necessarily have monopoly to who they can associate with, is insane. The idea, to me, the other thing people lose sight of, and people will argue it's a right or a privilege. This is the College Sports Act. It's not the College Football Act. So I don't know how you say a diving person can only transfer once, especially if they're not even getting NIL or anything else, when another student can transfer all they want academically if a school will accept them. So you can't sit there and say, well, it's money or diving's a privilege. another school might want them. So it's not even that, they are being required to be allowed to dive for another team. But if they're not making money and they're not under a contract for a non-revenue sport, but this bill applies to them, how is that a legitimate thing that doesn't go against previous congressional, court rulings that prohibited the freedom of movement kind of situation? So I just don't understand that. And I love the concept of, hey, if we do your shared media rights, then you have to go back and schedule these teams, that you played frequently. But how can you do that? How can you legislate that? One, what if it's a G6 school? What ability do they have to force somebody else's team schedule to change? Because it's possible that Team X's three most played rivalries, that another school has 5 that are played the same.
Yeah.
Right? Or close. So how do you do that? What happens if there's a tie in the amount of games played against a rival you no longer play? Do I think that's likely to be exactly that way? No, but you could have played some games 40 times, and a game that was played 30 times is actually the definitive rivalry, right? That's no longer played. So I don't even understand why Congress would even step into scheduling and then expect to get the Big Ten, SEC to go along with it, whereas the G6 and the the other school conferences might be willing to accept certain things they don't like because they're just trying to be protected by the whole part. So I don't know. It just feels like another optics thing to me, sadly.
Let me show you something here. Rock and Rant. Are you able to watch this? Are you listening, or can you see this?
I can see. I have you on TV with the screen muted. So
okay, I'm going to show you this. Chris Vanini, The Athletic. What's in the new proposed Senate bill for college sports? 1 transfer for undergrads, 5 years of eligibility, can't hire another school's coach during the season, freeze conference membership in SEC Big Ten. I don't see that anywhere. Freeze conference membership in the SEC and the Big Ten? That's what Chris Vanini has down here. If you have a chance, Rock and Rant, go into this this Athletic article. It's a gift article, so everybody can go look at it. I'm going through this thing, and I don't see him even writing about this. It freezes the membership.
Yeah, I don't understand why. Maybe he saw that. Maybe they drafted the article to be ready to go when they saw the original draft with whatever 74 pages or whatever the number was.
Yeah.
And didn't go into update it, and he added something else to it. I don't think he used, Grok AI to write his post, and they added that. But that's like the biggest thing in that post, right? Is the whole freezing the membership of the Big Ten and SEC, which is, removing their right to association.
Well, that's why I think Mohr is going off right now on X, and I think you might have saw that. It says the commissioners of the Big Ten and the SEC have expressed their views directly to Cruz and Cantwell. So the Big Ten and the SEC have said something. I don't think it's in public yet, unless I missed that. I have not seen anything anywhere about this bill freezing conference memberships for the SEC and the Big Ten. If that's in there, yeah, this is, again.
Unless they're putting certain things in to try to, do a different form of negotiating of, oh, cool, we'll take this out if you concede to something else, Big Ten and SEC. And this goes back to the conversation the other day of, it's not that easy for everyone to sit there and guess of, hey, these senators have Big Ten and SEC schools in their states, so you assume that they're leaning in that direction, right? But a lot of them have, Texas itself has, I think, almost every conference we talk about, other than maybe the MAC and the Big Ten in it, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm missing one, but I think they have a Conference USA team. They have a Mountain West. They have a PAC, right? They have all of these conferences in it. Now, you assume Texas and Texas A&M would lead the way for what Cruz needs to do, but I don't know. For all I know, his biggest donor is Cody Campbell. right? Or maybe the collective of Texas Tech, SMU, TCU, Baylor has more political sway than the ginority of Texas A&M and Texas. So I'm going to look in. I loaded one of the AIs with the document. Once I get off the phone call with you, I'll look to see if it says anything about, in any words, that Big Ten SEC. In which case, you would think if he made a mistake in his post, you would think he would have already tweaked it, because that's what everyone is, noticing, among other things, because it's the most recent thing. So it would explain another reason why the Big Ten and SEC did not sign the letter. One could be they literally hadn't seen the legislation, or maybe they knew that was in there, and therefore they didn't want to be in there, and they just used that we haven't seen the legislation as an excuse at the moment to avoid signing it in hopes that maybe they would remove it. So I'm definitely curious to see if that's accurate or a mistake. Either way, someone clearly let him know that that was something that was at least discussed and he expected to be in there. But what you're talking about in the article itself not being there throws it all into question.
Yeah, Mullen jumps all over it. Any bill that sacrifices conference autonomy is a no-go. It's ridiculous that any senator would support this gross government overreach. Specifically targeting the Big Ten and the SEC is outrageous. Then he goes after the Ohio senators. Can look forward to a strongly worded email. So Mullen is going after everybody. I don't know. I didn't see that anywhere in the article, but interesting.
Yeah, I'm typing it as we talk to see if I can get it to search. To give us the answer, but if I'm fine to hang up and I'll post it if I find it somewhere.
Okay, I appreciate it, sir.
All right, Greg, take care.
All right, you too. Beautiful call, rock and rant. I'm gonna spend a little time here. I'm trying to find. I'm searching to see. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. It is such small writing, and I don't know. Okay. Timeout, everybody. I'm calling a timeout. How do I do this? Okay, I'm going to have to, I'm going to read here. Section 205. Prohibition on certain conference mergers or acquisitions. This is in the bill. Makes it unlawful under the antitrust laws for any conference with less than $1 billion in 2025 revenue to merge. No, I'm sorry. Let's start all over. Section 205 makes it unlawful under the antitrust laws for any conference with greater than $1 billion in 2025 revenue. So it's 1 year, 2025. So this is targeting the SEC and the Big Ten. To merge, consolidate, or acquire another conference's assets, media rights, membership, if the resulting conference would fall below the covered entity membership threshold, 75% of FBS institutions. So this is freezing the Big Ten SEC's membership. So let me go back to this. Hold on, everybody. This is what I posted. I just read Section 205 of the bill. It does freeze SEC Big Ten membership. It does take away SEC and Big Ten sovereignty. This Cruz-Cantwell bill is dead. Absolutely dead. It's over, Johnny. Absolutely over. You cannot. I mean, look, people are going to be in favor of this. Go ahead. But why would the Big Ten, the SEC, be in favor of this bill? We talked about how because the Big Ten and the SEC did not write their names on the dotted line. Hold on a second. Because they did not write their name on the dotted line, the Big 12 and the ACC are in favor of this bill The SEC and the Big Ten are not. And you're starting to see there is a definite... We had a live show a week ago that had the SEC island, the Big Ten island, the ACC, and the Big 12 island, and there was this river rushing through called Split River. You can see the split. Again, the Big 12 and the ACC are supporting something that would take sovereignty away from the Big Ten and the SEC. This bill targets the Big Ten and the SEC. It does not. It allows the Big Ten and the ACC to be able to decide what they want to do with their conference membership, but it freezes the Big Ten and SEC membership. So this is dead. We're going in the silos. It's over. It's all over. This is turning into nothing but a Pro 2 P2 channel. MBM, I love you. I love you. But I got to talk about their perception of things. I talk about the ACC and the Big 12. You're not going to favor a bill that takes away your sovereignty but continues on for other conferences. Of course, then I got to be honest. And I am one. I don't know if going in the silo is going to work. It might not work at all. It might be a complete disaster. I'm not advocating for it. But I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to sit here and be blind and say, "Oh, geez, this bill freezes the membership of the SEC." Oh, but they might support it. I'm not going to do that. Number one, I would look like a complete idiot. Kenneth Maynard, tell me how am I supposed to report this? I think some of you are peace out. I mean, how am I supposed to report this? The Big Ten and the SEC are not going to be for something that takes away their sovereignty, but keeps it in the Big 12 and the ACC's hands. Why would they do that? Ask yourself that question. Why would they do that? They're not going to do that. Am I supposed to lie and say there's just no way? In this bill, the Big 12 could add on Florida State and Miami, but the Big 10 can't. Why? Right, and the Big 10 is supposed to support that. In this bill, the ACC could add on Kansas and Utah, but the Big 10 and the SEC cannot. So the ACC and the Big 12 can figure out better ways. They can figure out ways to expand their conference, to better their institutions, but the Big Ten and the SEC can't because they got over $1 billion in 2025 as the bill. Of course, the Big Ten and the SEC are not going to support this bill. I'm supposed to lie and say this. It should not matter. It should not matter to the Big Ten and that. Boy. Jose, I said it last night. Cody had a hand in writing this bill. I don't know, like, why am I the problem here? Am I supposed to look at that and say, I am not advocating for a breakaway. What I'm asking for is an option. The breakaway plan could be a complete and total disaster if the SEC pulls the trigger. I don't know if it's going to hold up in the courts. I don't know if it's going to work. Their viewership might drop dramatically. All I've been doing here at Peek Around the Corner has been giving you guys the clarion call, the warning that this is all about to happen. We've been at DEFCON 1 for months. I got ripped on in the chat room for that. It turned out to be accurate. I don't know what else I'm supposed to tell you. I'm giving you the peek around the corner. Of course this bill's not going to be supported by the Big Ten and the SEC. There is no logical reason for them to support this bill. If it freezes their membership, but it does not freeze the ACC and the Big 12, how in the world could anybody in the Big, they're not going to be for this. So because I told the truth, this is becoming some sort of P2 channel. I got to say, I have been called a lot of things, but that is absolutely ridiculous. Holy smokes. My goodness. And I didn't, again, at first blush, I said it at the beginning of this program, at first blush, it looked like this was a good effort, and a large part of it is, but that was snuck in there. Section 205, Google it. Google it. It literally freezes the SEC and the Big Ten's membership. And that, of course, that's not going to fly for the Big Ten and the SEC. Noel Berman, we need a separate College Football Association, college football separation from Olympic sports, antitrust 9 exemption. It's inevitable. Thank you, Noel Berman, for the $5 holler. Thank you very much. Eva Badger, thank you for becoming a member for 29 months. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. You are hereby knighted, cloak and dagger. I doubt Miami and Florida State would go to the Big 12. But again, I'm just offering that up as an example. This bill targets the Big Ten and the SEC. It targets them. It limits their ability for their own sovereignty. It does not limit the ACC and the Big 12. So, of course, the SEC and the Big Ten are not going to buy in. That's all I said. That's all I said. Eva Badger, thank you for so much for the $5 holler. I do appreciate it very much. Yeah, I don't know. I try to stand up for G6 Access. I'm for the 2014 playoffs. I was for the 4-4-4-4-2-6. This is a P2 channel. Unbelievable. Marcus Williams, $2 holler, $2 holler. Marcus Williams' bill is DOA, Q realignment, Florida State, Miami, and etc. Thank you for the $2 holler. Mark's Holy Grail. Do yourself a favor. Read the bill first. I have read it. This is not what you're saying. It prevents the creation of a super league. You are not understanding the full intention of the actual bill, text. Okay. Let me read to you Bill 206. Let me read you the bill again. Makes it unlawful. this is a prohibition. Prohibition. Section 205. Mark's Holy Grail. Look it up. Google it. Section 205. Prohibition on certain conference mergers or acquisition. Prohibition on certain conference mergers or acquisition makes it unlawful under the antitrust laws for any conference greater than $1 billion in 2025 revenue. So that's the SEC and the Big Ten. It makes it unlawful for the Big Ten and the SEC, not for Conference USA, not for the MAC, not for ACC, not for Big 12, not for the Pac-12. It makes it unlawful for the SEC and the Big Ten to merge, consolidate, or acquire another conference's assets, media rights, membership, if the resulting conference would fall below the covered entity membership threshold of 75% of the FBS institutions. Go look at the numbers. If anything is taken away, if anything is taken away from the other FBS institutions, they're going to fall below. Do the math. Take out the calculator, do the math. They're going to fall below the FBS, 75% FBS institutions. So basically, it is freezing the SEC and the Big Ten's membership. This is targeting the SEC and the Big Ten. Now, I get it. A lot of you believe that the SEC is bad, mean, the devil. Same thing with the Big Ten. I can understand all of that. But this is targeting those two conferences while not targeting any other conference. It's freezing them. They cannot take any of the FBS schools because it would fall below the... Do the math. Do the math. Chris Vanini from The Athletic is absolutely correct. Chris Vanini is absolutely correct. His reporting is correct. So Mark Holy Grail, go to Chris Vanini, send that same comment to him. Eva Badger, $5 holla. The bill is a definition of communism. Let the free market work. I would rather say it's like this. The bill does not target the ACC, but it targets the SEC. It limits the SEC. It does not limit the ACC in acquisitions. So if that, of course, and again, I go back to this, of course the Southeastern Conference is not going to support the bill. And by saying that, what am I again? I'm a pro P2 channel by saying that something that is quite obvious and logical. Wow. I was hoping and praying that we would get help from the federal government in a way that would not take away the sovereignty of the Big Ten and the SEC. This bill does. Once again, it does. So it's going down. It's going down in flames. A bill is a waste of our time and energy. Well, the phone line's open. So if you disagree with me, let me know. Give me a call, 763-260-1333. By the way, and here's Brian Murphy. Mark's Holy Grail. The planes are crashing. We got to get to the planes. Hold on a second.
From
Rock and Rant.
Rock and Rant, can you hold on for a moment, please?
Yeah, sure.
Brian Murphy put this up, WRAL. Looking through the cruise bill, it requires at least one free local broadcast option for football and basketball games, bars certain large revenue conferences, Big Ten and SEC, from consolidating with or acquiring other conferences assets, other conferences schools. It literally targets the SEC and the Big Ten in a way that it doesn't target the Big 12 and the ACC. And I have no idea why Ted Cruz believed that this thing had a chance of having any support. Go ahead, Rock and Rant. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I just wanted to help you out. One, just because people need to stop acting like just because you're telling people what your interpretation of a news item is and they don't like the information. This is not, that's the problem with the entire country right now. Facts are facts, numbers are numbers, period, end of story. So, if they want to get mad at you for telling people what you think, I don't know what to tell you. But because you're live on the show. So you're saying to do the math, right? Right now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we have 138 FBS schools heading into the new season.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm off one or two. That means the SEC,
yeah.
SEC and Big Ten is 24.6% of that, right?
Yeah.
So if the Big Ten added, I don't know, three teams would bring them to 26.8%. So 2 teams would probably bring them just above the 25%. Maybe one team. I think even one team gets them above. If you do the 2 point, I think one team alone gets them above 25%. That's threshold.
Yeah.
For anyone saying that this is only about conferences and acquiring a full conference, because they're not saying teams, they're saying assets, right? So in typical government fashion, you can define what the definition of is, but you can make an argument that acquiring Florida State and Clemson, or Florida State and North Carolina, those are assets of the ACC technically, and those teams' media rights. But either way, even if that's what their interpretation was, maybe they wrote the bill poorly, right? But all you need to do is shift. Maybe it's just one. Again, maybe I'm off 138. I don't, but there's new teams coming in with Sacramento State and North Dakota State. But either way, somewhere close to that number changes the calculus. If you're saying the Big Ten and the SEC aren't being limited, that math portion right there, just that one section, backs what you are saying.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a different interpretation, and maybe we're wrong. And I'm not trying to do this. Like, honestly, this would screw potentially the school that I root for, right? So, and it's not like it's going to make the Big 12 and ACC stronger in any regard. So, your math is mathing, as far as I can tell, and as far as plugging the same question and information into every single AI model that people reference is telling me the same thing on that, at least on that specific portion. So I at least wanted to back your math while you're live on the show.
This also gets to me, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Oftentimes over the last 4 years, and I've said this before in the chat room, I get people saying, Greg, the Big Ten, they could contract, they could consolidate, the top half of the Big Ten could go with the top half of the SEC. Greg, the Big Ten could leave Minnesota behind. And I say, yes, that could happen. Yes, that could happen. I agree with you. It could happen because the Big Ten is going to keep their sovereignty. They're going to be able to decide what they want to do. And if the Buckeyes want to leave the Big Ten, freedom of association, if they want to join the top half of the SEC, take a couple of the top ACC schools, leave Minnesota behind, I've always said that could happen. And then my brothers and sisters from the ACC and Big 12 country, you nod your head, yes, Greg, yes, that could happen. But then when I argue for the Big Ten and the SEC keeping their sovereignty, because that's what they're going to want to keep, then I got people saying, Greg, you're P2, you're P2, you're P. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I'm being consistent here. I'm being consistent. I don't know what else I have to do here. I'm being consistent. The Big Ten, they're going to do everything they can to keep their sovereignty. The Big 12, Brett Yormark came out in public and said that the Cody Campbell plan he's against it because it took away the Big 12 sovereignty. Is that a pro? I mean, these conferences are going to do whatever they can to keep their sovereignty. They're our creation of the schools. Now, maybe someday this bill gets passed. Maybe someday all these conferences get squashed. I don't think that's going to happen. But until then, the SEC is going to fight for the SEC. The Big Ten is going to fight for the Big Ten. The Big 12 is going to fight for the Big 12. It is natural. That's how things are. And in a federal bill, when a federal bill targets two of the conferences to freeze their membership and doesn't target the other conferences, of course the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be against it. And no, this is not a P2 channel. Rock and Rant, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, the other part too, right, is like if the math is wrong, if there's 139 FBS schools or 140 or whatever, right? Either way, the kind of stuff that you talked about on the show of big scoop, little scoop, 2 teams, 6 teams, right? At some point, the math doesn't work, even if it's not 138 isn't the total. Like I think that's what it is, but it could be awesome. Like holding that out again, there could be some interpretation, there could be a tweak to the language, but also this is people have to also understand schools like Miami, Florida State, Clemson, who want to be able to compete at the highest level. Texas, this is weird for Texas Tech, but like maybe because they can't, they don't find a path. But those other schools, this also locks them in, who want to compete at the same level as the Big Ten and SEC. This locks them in to diminish revenue, period, right? Because it's not like you can do the collective media thing that they're talking about, but that doesn't mean the Big Ten and the SEC have to do it, and the remainder is not going to get more than those two would. So you're not going to necessarily have Miami probably advocating with their senators from Florida or Florida State to pass this, even though maybe USF wants it passed, right? So then you get into more and more state by state blocking and tackling on what the Senate, who gets the senators' ears to even potentially pass it. Then when you go back down to the House, right, where they don't have to represent the entire state, most of them either have nobody specifically in their geographic footprint on the House where any team exists, right, depending upon their territory, or they only have one, and they're adjacent to, an economic driver. There might be 2 House districts near Tallahassee, both, FSU matters, or then you get into the fans and the constituents, right? So on the House level, maybe a miracle happens and it gets past 60, but just like the SCORE Act couldn't get up for reasons, I don't see how, if that is true, it goes downward and can pass back in the House, which is ultimately, you got to get them all, man. Like, and I don't know how they do it. So I don't want to hog up with the second call, but I felt like you were getting like hung out to dry there. And sometimes you deserve to get hung out to dry. Maybe, but I didn't think that was one of them. So.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate it, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. I got a couple of things I got to get to here. We're going to take the phone off the hook. We've been on the air for 2 hours and 9 minutes. I'm going to still read some super chats. We got a few things I got to get to here. More information, more stuff going on. First of all, super chat from the very generous Kenneth Mohr once again. The Pro P2 is more about the chat, not you, Greg. You've been fair to everyone, especially the G6. Not a shot at you at all. You always go to. Thank you, Kenneth Mohr. I appreciate your support. Again, there is more people in the chat that are P2 than G6, just because, there's more fans of those schools, more people online, more whatever. So, yeah, the chat rooms do seem to get dominated by P2. You're absolutely correct. Thank you, Kenneth Mohr. I do always appreciate your support. Even we agree, we disagree, but we go on. Thank you, Kenneth Mohr. I was just trying to state why there's just no way that SEC and the Big Ten are going to support this thing. In fact, a very good friend of the show, and I'm not going to say his name, but I'm gonna say what he said in a text. I'm hoping he's gonna be. I'm not gonna say the person's name, but I do think we're gonna have to, again. Oh boy. You know what? I'm not going to say his text verbatim unless he's watching this. I'm going to say something here. And it's not going to be the G6 people, the fans of G6 schools that are going to be upset with me. It's going to be Big 12 and ACC fans that are going to get upset with me. So if you are, I don't want, again, this is the most unpopular national college football YouTube channel in the country. Even though the channel's growing like crazy, thanks to you all. But there is so much, I'm going to say this bluntly. If the Big 12, this is, I've been trying to keep us all together. I've been battling with Big 10 people, battling with SEC people, battling with Big 12 when I need to. ACC, I'm trying to keep us all together, trying to get the 2014 playoffs in. I'm trying to do this kumbaya. I do not want to break away uncharted waters. But I got to tell you something. We got to talk about the planes. Opie, I'm going to get to that. Opie, thank you so much for your incredible generosity. Opie, I'm going to get to that. I promise. I am the original Minnesota moron. Hold on. But Opie, as somebody representing Purple and Gold LSU, think about this, for example. I'm going to say it. I don't care. If you get upset with me, that's fine. I'm not going to open up the phone lines again because we've been on the air for 2 hours and 15 minutes. But if you want to yell at me in the comments section, if you want to yell at me, super chat, or if you want to take it to the next live show, which could be later tonight or tomorrow, it could be later tonight. And if we do come on live again, it would be about 8:15 Eastern time. Or I might have to hop on a special live show with Moen and the guys and gals at College Football Mafia. We may have to do that. But think about this for a moment. You've got Section 205 of this bill that I've read a few times. Rock and Rant gave you the math better than the original Minnesota moron could ever do it. This literally freezes the membership of the Big Ten and the SEC. It freezes them. Takes away that part of their sovereignty. It does not freeze the ACC and the Big 12 nor anybody else. If the Big 12 and the ACC continue their full throttle support of this bill that has Section 205 in it, remember, Yormark and Phillips has already signed on the dotted line in support of this bill. If they continue a full throttle support of this bill, and of course the SEC and the Big Ten are not going to, because the Section 205 alone cannot allow them to support this bill. Not only do I fear that we are well past the ability to have a national bill to somehow get this thing governable among 138 schools. I think we're well past it being governable among 68 schools. This A4 governance that people speak about in the Division I Council and everything, that's about to be destroyed. Again, a lot of people are going to get upset with me right here, but this is college football peek around the corner. Hold on one second. Everybody hold on for a moment, please. If you have Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips supporting this bill, that by government decree, by government bill, freezes the membership of the SEC and the Big Ten, while the ACC and the Big 12 have the freedom to expand if they want, the friction, the utter friction between these A4 conferences is only going to grow. It is only going to grow. It might accelerate timelines. It might accelerate game plans. It might accelerate the war gaming that's going out. This is delicate times between the ACC and the Big 12 on one hand and the Big 10 and the SEC on the other. The ACC and the Big 12 are in fact in favor of this bill that freezes the Big 10 and the SEC by government bill, by government decree. But it doesn't freeze those two conferences. There is no way that the SEC and the Big Ten are going to look at this and go, oh, okay, fine. This bill might have caused more damage in relationships between the conferences. We've got a super chat. We've got a super chat. OBD done. $10 holler, OPD done. Okay, just got here for 5 minutes, have to go already. But those planes just got shot down by ground-to-air missiles. Jeez, we'll listen later. Wonder how Mohr is doing. NDA, silos, here we come. I think Opie, he was only here a few minutes. but he absolutely nailed it a lot better than I just said. I did not know about this Section 205 until about midway through this live program. So if you're just joining us, you don't have to go back to the beginning. I think this bill has done more damage. The SEC and the Big 12 are not going to support it. ACC and the Big 12 support it. The gap between the conferences has just grown wider in vision. I think this bill did a lot of damage. I said this bill was a good attempt. It's going to fail, but it was a good attempt. That Section 205 is a poison pill. Eva Badger, is the college football mafia going to have an emergency show tonight? I don't know. You're going to have to ask them. I do not coordinate with them. They do not, I don't. I just do what I do. They do what they do. Sometimes they invite me. But again, they only can handle a little bit of me and my grading personality. Thank you for the $5 holler, Eva Badger. Appreciate it. The Big Ten actually has a defensive expansion reason to expand right now. I mean, look, the Big Ten and the SEC, they have a lot of, there's a lot of hurdles for them to expand right now. I don't think anything is imminent right now for a lot of reasons. The planes are flying around, but they are landing and they are crashing right now. So after all the planes land or crash, then things could become imminent. It might not even be a good time to expand. It might be a terrible time to expand. They might expand with the wrong schools. Maybe they should contract. But it is the Big Ten's sovereignty that they do not want to let go, and the SEC. And the Big 12 and the ACC also have the same pushback on taking away their sovereignty. But this bill doesn't take away their sovereignty, not any part of it. Well, kind of, but it does target the SEC and the Big Ten. I'm interested in see what Notre Dame thinks of this bill. There would be good parts and bad parts for them. Notre Dame would absolutely love this bill. They've signed on it. They would love it. They would absolutely love this. Notre Dame is praying that this bill passes. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. I am biased towards my Gophers. Golden Gopher propaganda is alive and well at PATC. All right, guys. I think we're going to shut it down. We've been on the air for a long time. We did have to cover this big breaking news. Cruz and Cantwell. Bill details. Some parts of it, I think they did a good job of compromise. I think they did a good job of trying to thread the needle. But at the end of the day, I think the bill is DOA, dead on arrival. I really think it is. Unless they can, I think this might speed up the breakaways. So that is a story that we're going to continue to cover. There's a lot of hurdles to that. Dan Walken put out an article today. I think we're going to cover it later this week. Later tonight, tomorrow, we shall see. Down in Destin, there's a lot of talk about the SEC breaking away of the rest of college sports, but you know what the result of that would be? Certain death to the Southeastern Conference. There is danger to the breakaway. But I would ask this question to Dan Walken and anybody else. What are the options? They're literally, we are running out of options, and I don't think the Cruz and Cantwell bill, as it is written, is an option. Let me know what you think continually the rest of the day. Put down the comments in the comments section below the video. I read all the comments. I do want to thank those who donated to the program to help us keep the lights on and grow the channel. Christopher Hooter again, Becky Go Husky, Kenneth Maynard, Jacoba Cat, Noel Berman, Eva Badger, Marcus Williams, Eva Badger again, Kenneth Mader, OBD Dunn, and the Eva Badger. Once again, thank you guys for your generosity, helping us keep the lights on and grow the channel. I want to thank the great phone calls, the great comments in the comments section. Again, keep your head on a swivel. Subscribe to this channel. Ring the notification bell. We might have to come on later tonight. If we don't, we're definitely coming back tomorrow. Big breaking news. The Cruz Cantwell bill details are known. We went through the bill the best we could. Woo! Onward we go. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. And as always, God, family, golden.